Diego Pavia is going to prove that he belongs in the upper echelon of SEC quarterbacks. We're going to talk about it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Thanks for stopping by. However you got here, whether you're listening on the audio side or you're watching on YouTube, thanks for making us part of your day, and shout out to the everydayers. This show is presented by FanDuel. That's right. So this is what we're going to do, okay? Like I said, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So on this episode, today's episode, we're going to do some quarterback talk. We're going to talk about where Diego Pavia ranks compared to his peers in the conference. We're going to talk about because there were some interesting things going on in the comment section of my episode two days ago when I compared him with Lenore Sellers, and people thought I was crazy. Well, looking through some rankings and looking through some other stuff, I just don't see how you could say that they're not at least very, very close, because I think Diego Pavia is in the upper echelon of the SEC quarterbacks, and he's going to prove it this year. I think he's going to have a big season. So let's talk quarterbacks, though. All right, let's talk quarterbacks. A couple lists I want to show you, and I think you'll see that Diego Pavia is very highly thought of by people who I think actually know ball. And so it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a fun season, and it's, it's list season, it's the off season, it's whatever. And it's a perfect time to talk about this. And you hope that he can stay healthy and prove this out on the field. But here's a couple lists here. Chris Marler, Locked On Gamecocks, Vern Funquist now is his X handle. And of course, Chris Doering of the SEC Network. He ranked his top 5 quarterbacks as well on SEC Live. He's doing a college football spring preview. He did this back in April. I don't know if his opinion has changed since then, but here's a couple lists that I looked at. I'm like, this is pretty interesting. I think Diego Pavia is being put in some pretty good company. And I think people, and there's some lists that have him down lower or whatever, but I think these are the two lists that I think really put him where he should be. Anywhere from like 3rd to 5th in the conference, I think, is about where he is, just on his playmaking ability alone, on his ability to affect the game with his legs, and his ability to just be a leader and get every ounce of talent from the guys around him. You can't discount that. You can't. The intangible stuff does matter. The intangible stuff gives context to the stats, to the numbers. The intangible stuff brings meaning to all of that. It separates guys, right? Because if, like, let's look at the list of 16, like, all these guys are good quarterbacks. Otherwise, they wouldn't be starters in the SEC. They're all good quarterbacks, like Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Diego Pavia, Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, John Mateer, Taylor Green, Austin Simmons, all the way down, right? These are all great quarterbacks. They all do something exceptionally well within their game. What's going to set these guys apart is some of this intangible stuff that allows them to showcase their strengths and really kind of put their weaknesses or the things they need to improve on the back burner. And the guys at the top of the list do this exceptionally well. And the guys at the bottom of the list, compared to their peers in the conference, maybe not as good, but they still do it exceptionally well, I think, if you were to stack these guys up against quarterbacks around the country. So the first list, Chris Marler, love this list. This is probably my favorite list here on the left here. Lenore Sellers, number one. I think that's accurate. That's who I would put there. I think he's a true dual threat guy. I think if he makes that next step in the passing game, he will be far and away number one. But I think the potential of what he can give you in the passing game, plus his running ability and his playmaking ability and some of the and the intangible stuff that he has, I think right now makes him the number one quarterback in the conference. And I never said he didn't deserve to be there. I just said that Diego Pavia and him are on very similar footing, and their styles of play are also extremely similar. And then Garrett Nussmeier, I think, is your number two guy. Just what he's done at LSU, what he's able to do under duress, the throws he can make under duress, off platform, things like that. He just creates, man, and he's not gonna absolutely blow you away with his athleticism. He's not an elite runner, but he can run. He's not an elite passer. Well, maybe he is. He's good. He's great all around. He can make plays. He is, just the things he does with pressure, I think set him apart from the other quarterbacks. The off-platform throws, the ability to stand in the pocket and deliver when the pressure is bearing down on him. I think those things set him apart. Then Diego Pavia is just the ultimate creator. He's got the leadership qualities around him, and he makes everyone around him better. He's a creator. He's tough as nails. He's a great runner, a good short to intermediate passer, could work on his downfield accuracy, but he's going to prove, like I said, he's going to prove that he's in the upper echelon of these quarterbacks. And you got, I think Arch Manning, very small sample size, but I think there's a lot of potential there. And I don't know that he would be up this high on the list if his name wasn't Arch Manning. But nonetheless, I think he's going to outperform his expectations. I think he's going to, I think he's in a great situation at Texas there. DJ Lagway, if he's healthy, man, he's as good as anybody on this list, if not better. But he's just not healthy. So, but he's in the up. I think anyone in this top 8 is going to be great in this conference. John Mateer, Taylor Green, Austin Simmons, all. Taylor Green, I think on this is too low on this list. He's a returning starter, lots of production there. I think the simple fact that he's at Arkansas means he's at number 7 versus number 5. I think he's right now more proven than DJ Lagway and John Mateer at the very least. So it's a good list. And then, of course, Chris Doering, a Gator, has got DJ Lagway number 1, Garrett Nussmeier number 2, Arch 3, Lenore's 4, and Diego Pavia at number 5. He's not Chris Doering is probably not sold on Lenore Sellers quite yet, but he is. I think if you're in this top 5 group, you are really, really good. So what's the point of me going through these lists is, I think when you see Diego Pavia up in that upper half and even in the upper half of the upper half, so I guess the upper quarter of, I guess you would say the upper quarter of the conference, I think that's a really good compliment to what, and I want to sit here and say, oh, Diego Pavia is disrespected and da-da-da, but he's not. I think people think very, very highly of him as a quarterback. And put to the side whatever he says, whatever he does in press conferences, whatever he does in his interview stuff, I think he's going to show you and he's going to prove once again that he belongs in the upper half of this list. I don't know what that does for NFL prospect purposes. Don't really, I think that's kind of irrelevant to this discussion, but I think he's going to have a big year, and I think he's going to. I think Vanderbilt's going to have a big year because of that. So I stand by my prediction. I think it's going to be a really hell of a quarterback battle, but I just think that factor of the losing streak and everything, like they're due. Like I just think that's gonna. I know we provided him with bulletin board material. I know that this game's at Williams-Brice, and that's a tough place to win. But like when you look at the, when you look at the quarterbacks, I think them being similar, they had a really good game plan against him last year. They just couldn't execute it. They held him to a season low rushing yards. from the quarterback position, they held Lenore Sellers in check for the most part. They forgot about Rocket Sanders, unfortunately, and they just got gassed, is what it comes down to. They just had no depth. They got gassed, and South Carolina did a good job of just leaning on them until they fell apart, and that's exactly what happened. And South Carolina had they executed tremendously. So I got to tip my cap to them for that game last year, but it's going to be different this year. I think it's a much deeper roster, so I think they'll be able to execute on a higher level. And I think Diego Pavia is super, super motivated to win this game. But the ultimate compliment is being listed with these guys, being talked about as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. And a lot of lists, I think a lot of people that know football is going to put Diego Pavia in those upper echelon lists. So it's a very interesting list. I'm curious what I'm most excited about for this season, not only on Diego Pavia and see where he falls on the list, but just to kind of see this list reshuffle, because there's some names on here that I'm like, okay, there's a lot of unknowns in this list. Like Austin Simmons, we have no clue. He could be number 1. He could be number 16. John Mateer, we don't know how he's going to do. We don't know how Lagway's shoulder is going to hold up. Gunnar Stockton, he had that one game against Notre Dame, and it was a pretty good game, but we just don't know really. Ty Simpson, just don't know what he's got as a starter. Blake Shapen is on a terrible Mississippi State team, but I think he's going to produce offensively. I don't know what that does. I don't know how that translates to wins, but I don't know. He's going to produce a little bit. Marcel Reed, if he can become a better passer, I think could surpass his preseason rating. So it's going to be fun to see how these quarterbacks shake out. But nonetheless, Diego Pavia is up there, and he's going to prove that he belongs. And this season is going to be a big factor into that. He's going to prove that he belongs in the upper echelon of these quarterback rankings. So one thing that's going to help him, though, is Clark Lee's desire to get the best 11 on the field. Martell Height is a name that I'm very excited about, and to see what he can do. We're going to talk about him being a two-way player, a two-way star, next. But first, let's discuss FanDuel. Yeah, because summer sports are in full swing. You got baseball, you got the Braves on the road at Oakland. Whether you're into baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Just think about that. Or you could be sitting there on the beach, placing your bets, getting ready so you have something to root for at dinner. And I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. And whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride all the way into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am part of the action. So are you new to FanDuel? Well, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you, and shout out to you everydayers. Without you, the show wouldn't be what it is. So thanks for enjoying the ride, however you got here, whether you're on the audio side or on YouTube. Thank you. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is the way to go. So we did some quarterback talk, all right? Pavia is ranked well, and he's going to prove that he deserves to be ranked extremely well. And when you compare him to the other quarterbacks, those things kind of set him apart and kind of prove that he belongs in that category because they all do things exceptionally well. This is a great list of quarterbacks. This is probably, and there was somebody along the line that said that this quarterback group is mediocre at best. I strongly disagree with that. I think this is one of the best all-around quarterback groups that the league has seen in quite some time, from top to bottom. Now, there's been more elite quarterbacks to come out of the conference, but the sheer depth of quarterback talent in this group, I think is probably some of the best it's been in a really, really long time. There's no one or two elite guys that are surefire number one draft picks, But like, there's a lot of potential home runs here, and this list could shake out any possible way because there's a lot of talent in this group. There's a lot of it, and so I'm very excited about this list. I'm very excited to see how it shakes out. So, those of you that know, the two-way player, I think might be making a comeback. Yeah, you saw one of those guys go number 2 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, named Travis Hunter. A two-way star, played corner, played receiver for Colorado and Jackson State, really, out of high school, and then transferred to Colorado when Coach Prime took the job there. And now he is going to be doing something similar in Jacksonville. So it's, Vanderbilt might have their own version of that. Martell Height. Let's talk about Martell Height. Raise your hand if you're excited about Martell Height. Yeah, me. Okay. He's going to be a two-way star. I think he's going to really be able to contribute. And I think the depth at cornerback is going to allow him to get reps on the offensive side of the ball as well. This guy on some series, may never come off the field. He might go straight from defense to punt return to wide receiver. And this guy's going to be a dude, man. Like I'm sure of that. And Clark Lee had this to say about Martell Height, because I think he's just as excited, just as giddy. And I think this picture is the perfect image of Clark Lee's trying to contain his excitement for a Martell Height playing on offense. And he said, quote, "Our goal is to get our best 11 on the field and offensively to get the ball in the hands of our playmakers. And Martell's certainly one of those. So he's going to have a role on offense. He's continued to develop through the summer, and we'll find ways to split his practice time in fall camp." And then Martell Height also said this about his punt returns, which this quote, I don't know that it necessarily is completely relevant to this, but I thought this was great. I think of it as a game of tag. He said when referring to returning punts, "I try not to get touched." And it's just a kind of a fun way to put, I've never heard anybody describe punt returning like a game of tag. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty fun. But going back to this quote, all right, the second half of this quote, "We're going to find ways to split practice time in fall camp," okay? Because defense and offense, they practice simultaneously. So, like, the guys that switch over, like, that doesn't exist because, it's hard to get reps at receiver. It's hard to get reps at corner. So it may have to be like a one day on defense, one day on offense type scenario. There's going to have to be some packages for him. Like if they're practicing that certain package of plays, then, you have a Martell Height period where he comes over during team periods and runs his offensive stuff. But he does need some of that indie time. He does need some of that group 7-on-7 time. He does need, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they split the reps. And you'll see probably the percentage of his action on defense versus offense. You'll kind of see probably and be able to make inferences about how they were able to split those reps and be able to see kind of where they want him more. And based on the depth at cornerback, like he may be over on offense for a larger percentage of the time. He may click just like that offensively and may not need a ton of reps. You don't know. Like we don't know exactly what he's going to do, but for one, I think it's exciting to have a playmaker like this. I think it's somebody that you can market as, hey, we got to go see Martell Height, right? I think from a recruiting standpoint, it lets recruits know that, hey, if I want to be a two-way athlete, I can do that. And Coach Lee will allow me the space to be able to accomplish that and chase that. All right. Number 2, I think it electrifies the team. I think the team sees that Martell Height is willing to split time. He's willing to do whatever it takes to be able to help the team get to where they need to get to. And if he can do that, I think it brings a whole new dimension to this offense. And it brings a whole new dimension to the defense too. Like I think people will respect him more, and I think people will play hard when he's in the game. So for that, I think it's a good idea. And you're just getting your best 11 out on the field, right? It's kind of like a high school way of thinking of it, which sounds horrible because you're playing SEC football, and thinking of any ideas from high school from a high school perspective is not a good thing in theory. But if you got a guy that's electric like this, why not get him the ball? Why not find ways to do it? Colorado did, and they were successful. They won 9 games. They went to a bowl game. They just barely missed out on the conference championship and being able to have a vie for a spot in the playoff. Like, Colorado was a really good team this year. They had Travis Hunter making plays all over the field, and Travis Hunter was electric. And the fans followed suit. Like, Colorado was must-see TV. And they were good because of it. They were dynamic. They were able to do a lot of things. And if Martell Height can catch an under route and take it the distance, hell, that's worth its weight in gold. And I know your identity is ball control and time of possession, but 7 points is 7 points. You put that on the board, the defense is going to be excited about it, right? And you keep doing that, and you keep putting him in favorable situations, your team's going to be ahead in a lot of these games. And teams aren't, and opponents aren't going to know what to do with that. And you have to figure out something out there. Like, someone has to emerge as another weapon besides Eli Stowers. Like, somebody. And Martell Height is the perfect guy for that. And so this is a perfect chance for them to kind of really tap into that potential and to really be able to take advantage of his playmaking abilities and things like that. So I'm very excited about this dynamic option as a two-way player. I think there's a lot of possibilities here. I think you can get really creative in what you do with him, giving him carries, putting him in the screen game, sending him downfield on some routes, because he can go. He can take the top off of the defense, right? So doing things with him and treat him like a regular receiver, not some gadget guy. Treat him like a regular receiver. Let him go out there and cook. And I promise you, it'll be a good scenario for you. But speaking of good scenarios, great scenarios, this Georgia State game carries a lot of importance. I think you know why, but we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about why it's important next. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. I always appreciate you guys. And we're wrapping up the show here. And like the great Yogi Berra said, it got late early. So Locked On SEC, second listen. Locked On Portal if you want to go outside the realm of the SEC. Or if you want an individual show from somewhere outside of Vanderbilt, the SEC has a great lineup of Locked On hosts, so you should check out any one of the SEC Locked On shows, and I promise you, you will enjoy it. I promise you that we have some really, really good hosts. So check it out. But this Georgia State game is going to be very, very interesting. Okay, here it is on the schedule, just so you guys know. It's right after South Carolina. All right, so this game is going to be important for a lot of reasons. Okay. And the first reason, I think everyone's fully aware of that. First reason, it's a revenge game, really. It's okay, you got one on us last year. Now we're going to make you pay. Like, that's the type of mentality that's going to happen in this game. I guarantee you, Georgia State ain't going to slip up on you this time. If they do, then you should get rid of the whole coaching staff. If Georgia State beats you again, just get rid of everybody. All right. This is that type of game. Like, the fact that they beat you and you played like absolute garbage, and the leadership and the player leadership, none of it was acceptable in this game last year. And they know that. Everyone knows that. Everyone would tell you that. Clark Lee tried to tell you in his press conference. He said, we've had a terrible week of practice. Right. And ultimately it falls on him, but like, the players have got to maintain that focus. The players were feeling themselves a little bit, and they're like, it's just Georgia State. I guarantee they won't do that this year. I guarantee it. They got something for Georgia State. They got something special for Georgia State. It's going to be the revenge factor is real, right? It's, hey, you got us last year. We're going to get you back. It ain't going to be pretty. So you got the revenge factor. Then I think coming off of the South Carolina game, you could be either riding high on some really good momentum and feeling really good about yourself, and You go in and you're just perfecting things that you messed up on in the South Carolina game, or you could be licking your wounds. You could be coming in off a loss and saying, okay, we got to get right, and we got to beat their you-know-what because they beat us last year. And I just think this game it's got no choice but to be a hyper-focused game. It's got no choice but that. And so you have to treat it in a way that this game is just as important as the game the week before, and the game the week before that, and the game the week before that, and any game after. Like, this game has to be, because this game kept you from winning 7-8 games. I think if they win Georgia State, I think they do beat Missouri. I think they beat Missouri, but they played their hearts out, but they just didn't know how to finish a team off at that point, right? They kind of looked at, I felt like the Virginia Tech game was probably a little more fluky than it should have been. They dominated early, fell apart, and then clawed their way back in, and they ultimately won that game. And then Georgia State proved that, okay, this team just doesn't have the focus capabilities. And then Missouri was, hey, they figured it all out except for how to finish. But this is the game that, like, you can't. It's so important to win these games, right? And it's those games that, like, hey, you got to have the Utah State game. You got to have Georgia State. You got to have those for record boosters. You have to. And these are the games that the game plan is simple. Come out sharp. They won 3 games last year. You come out sharp. And you just bury them from the start. You come out hair on fire, ready to go, hitting on all cylinders. You start the game that way, first quarter is going to be like 28-0. Like, it's going to be that type of game. And now they're going to be well coached, just like Utah State. Just the same thing I talked about Utah State. If you come out flat, they will make you pay. They made you pay last year. You came out flat, they made you pay last year. Del McGee is not a bad coach. They just didn't have the roster. Like, they had an okay roster, but that roster couldn't win in the Sun Belt. That's how bad their roster. Like, they were coached well. I think they were. I think they were in a lot of games. I think they played well. They just didn't have any depth or any talent that they could keep up. The Sun Belt is a really good conference, and so this is, like I said, this is a game that you have to come out sharp offensively. You have to attack. You have to win the line of scrimmage. They didn't do that worth a crap last year. They got pushed around on the inside, but this year I think it's different. This year you got a much better offensive line, and I think you will. I think you will get movement on the line of scrimmage. I think you will run extremely well in this game. This is a game where you just establish dominance and say, okay, come and stop us. We're going to run. You know we're going to run. We know we're going to run. The whole stadium knows we're going to run, but we're going to do it anyway. Like, that's the kind of mentality you have to have. And I think getting that mentality, starting that mentality with Charleston Southern and then just refining it. And then, I don't know what I know I predicted that Vandy was going to beat South Carolina, but truly the outcome could go either way. So this game, the Utah State game, is kind of like your get right games, your get well games, your get back on track games. Like, you can't let a win or a loss affect your focus for Georgia State, especially. And you can't let it affect your focus for Utah State. So you have to stay sharp. You have to come out firing on all cylinders. It's important because you got Bama looming after those 2 games. And that's a trip that Bama has circled on their calendar. They're like, hey, Ant, Sledgehammer, we're gone, right? So you have to come out sharp defensively. Just communicate on the back end. And for God's sake, don't let that quarterback sit back there and pick you apart. I haven't done a full roster breakdown of Georgia State. Probably won't until that game week. But, just some of the I'm just going over kind of some of the implications, some of the general game plan stuff, some of the general keys to what it's going to take to make sure Georgia State doesn't happen again. And Georgia State being a verb in this scenario, like losing to a team you shouldn't have lost to. So those are the things you got to have to do. Those are the things you have to focus on. Stay sharp, establish the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and just completely disrupt their timing and just come after them. Just play like you're a heavy favorite, right? Play like you're a heavy favorite, but play like you're in jeopardy of losing the game. Play with the urgency that you played with on the last series, the last offensive series, I should say. The last defense series wasn't good, but play with the sense of urgency that you played with at the end of that game to open the game, and you'll be just fine. Stay sharp, all that stuff. So what did we learn today? What are our takeaways? Our takeaways are this. Diego Pavia is pretty well respected, and I think he's going to prove, again, why he is up there, why a lot of people think highly of him in terms of playing the quarterback position. He's going to prove why he belongs in the upper echelon of SEC quarterbacks. What else did we learn? Well, Martell Height is going to be a star. He's going to be an absolute stud. He's going to media days. He's going to talk about his time on offense, his time on defense, and he's going to be a very special player for Vanderbilt. And that's a name you're going to hear outside of the normal name on offense, which is going to be Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers. I think you're going to hear Martell Height as that next guy. I think he's going to contribute a lot on offense, more than anyone's ever expecting. So that's what we learned. And we also learned that Georgia State, there's a revenge factor. If that's the implication, it's just get them back. They beat you. They messed up I wouldn't say they messed it up, but it tarnishes kind of like, because it's always hey, you had a successful season, but you lost to Georgia State, right? It kind of tarnishes that whole because it could have been 8 wins. It could have been like a really special season, but you lose to Georgia State. That kind of puts a little just kind of like right? So we're going to talk about this on the next episode. Conference rankings. Vanderbilt's 13th. Think about your opinion on that. And we'll talk about that to get you into the weekend and get you ready for SEC Media Days. We're going to predict what they're going to ask. We're going to talk about conference rankings, and we're going to go from there. We're going to get you into the weekend and prepare you for SEC Media Days. But until next time, anchor down, peace out, and we'll talk to you later.